Hi, hello, namaste to all my listeners. I'm your host Sarthak Varshney, and I welcome you all to the Balls of Steel show, where you get an insight into the business mindset of the entrepreneurs. Dhandho ni Soch. Our today's guest is Miss Nikita Burman. Hi, Nikita.
Hi, Sarthak. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for coming in. So, how are you?
As good as one can be in a lockdown.
Okay, but unlock one has started. So, hasn't it started for you? Still,
No,
still
no.
stuck at home?
No, we are
Okay.
still away from. I don't think I don't see us working from office anytime soon. To be honest.
Okay. That's completely understandable because the risks, probably I would say in Delhi, are way too high, and it's similar goes for other nearby areas. So yeah, I can understand that. Okay, so moving ahead, Nikita, what's the business that you're doing because of which we're gonna say that you've got the balls of steel?
I run two companies, the sister concerns called the Blue Beans
Okay,
and the Blue Digit.
okay.
Blue Beans is a creative marketing agency which started from the whole Horeca and F&B domain, now expanded to other industries. And Blue Digit
Mm-hmm.
is a pure play performance marketing agency. And hence you can say that probably I've got vagina of steel, not balls of steel. Sarthak.
I can agree to that perfectly. Running two companies is not that easy, so yeah, I will agree on that. You've got the vaginas of steel. Perfect. So, Nikita, going ahead and diving deeper into your journey, I would say, why don't you start from the very starting point and tell us everything in detail about your journey till the current point at which you're standing?
Wow, I think that's a lot of emotions that are going to get evoked over the last that I've experienced in the last 4 to 5 years. Okay, so
No worries.
the
Yeah.
thing is that I studied statistics from Lady Sri Ram, and I wanted to pursue actuarial science out of it, but
Okay.
I saw the whole culture of Zomato. It had come to the campus. It seemed like a really interesting company, so I went ahead, gave the interview, got selected, and then I actually started working with Zomato. And while
Okay.
working with Zomato, I that was the first industry, the whole F&B industry that I was introduced to. I really loved the industry, the rawness in it, the passion in that whole industry. But I kind of realized the gap that these restaurateurs have when they want to get themselves marketed. Either they're the
Mm-hmm.
large, at least this is what I'm talking about back in 2014, 15. There were larger
Mm-hmm.
agencies, marketing agencies, which will charge such bombs that these guys won't be able to kind of afford them. So realizing that gap, that they don't that exists that does not exist any marketing agency which kind of specializes in F&B, we thought let's go ahead. So me and my co-founder Bhavisha, we thought let's go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
pursue this opportunity. So we quit Zomato with 5,000 rupees in our bank, at least in my bank. We just went ahead, started Blue Beans, and that was it. I think the risk appetites was so much higher when you're 23, 24. So without calculating and without rationalizing a lot of things, we just jumped right into the opportunity, and that was that day, and it's today. We've just kind of crossed $1 million revenue mark this year. So yeah,
Wow.
it's been a pretty interesting journey so far.
Okay. So that's the journey in, I would say, in very concise manner. But I wanna go much more in detail. And why don't you tell us more about your experiences, that what you started learning at Zomato, and what was there in your mind which was going ahead, and what exactly was it that you saw because of which you were like, no, let's jump into this thing. I mean, you saw the gap, but how was that? How did you get that kick? Because there's a lot of time we say that do something when you're not able to get it off your head, and then you can probably go ahead and still be there. So what was that experience for you?
Interesting question. So the thing was that there were two primary reasons why I jumped into it. First is so when we used to meet a lot of restaurant owners back in Zomato, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
I've met over 500 restaurant owners in my career so far, but I think 200 were from Zomato only. And upon
Okay.
meeting them, there were a very constant problem that used to come out, that they were not able to solve very basic problems around their marketing, very very trivial issues they could not, because they're also one man army or one woman army who was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to look at the salaries, the hiring, the food, the customer service, the procurement and sales and marketing, everything. And I kind of realized that these guys could really use some help, and from the solutions that they kind of were supposed to happen were very very on the tips for us. So
Mm-hmm.
one was this reason why the problems, it felt like, and being an empathetic person, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost always very compulsive for me to kind of just go out and help people. So one reason was that, and the second was the passion was infectious. Most of the restaurant owners, at least in Gurgaon and NCR, you would observe that a lot of them are these, they've just quit their corporate jobs and pursuing their dreams, and the cafe owners, and they're very interesting people. So I just kind of realized that these were very interesting things. I think since that day I've never had a dull day in my life, and especially like during the week when I'm the happiest is also when I've met a restaurant owner. So I thought their passion kind of rubbed off in me, and the light in their eyes kind of lit something in my heart as well. So I just thought that this is something that I have to definitely pursue, even if it goes down the drain, but this is something that I have to try.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So, this is quite interesting the way you started and kicked into this journey. But now I would like to relate couple of things and find if there's any relation that exists out there. So you told us that you used to meet the restaurant people, and looking at them you got this fire that got ignited about entrepreneurship in you. Why don't you tell me something about your childhood, or and the way you were brought up, and about your family, something, because a lot of times what happens is, no matter what happens in the after in a young age, but some seeds are sown somewhere down the early ages of our life. So why don't you take us back there and tell us some stories, and maybe try connect those dots where we can see, how this thing actually started in you, because you've been there running the company for 4 to 5 years now, and you're doing good. So there must be something. So why don't you tell us?
Sarthak, you've kind of hit the nail. Um, so I come from a slightly different set of responsibilities. Basically,
Okay.
I had a working mom, and
Mm-hmm.
my dad was occasionally working, I would say. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
the strongest person in my life is my mom. Seeing her making things happen, bringing things in order, has always been an inspiration. Moreover, we were two daughters. I have a sister. We never had a brother.
Okay.
So
Okay.
back in the day, I come from a smaller town where I remember hearing remarks to my parents when I am having a third child, because you need to have a son,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Right.
kind of stuck by in my as as a child. Definitely I can reason out a lot of things now, but as a child
Mm.
those things kind of seed into you in a way that you have to kind of, it's unfortunate, but you have to kind of prove something back to the world that no, I was enough in that moment. You did not have to kind of ask that to my parents. So all of these things have been in me for so long that now it's a part of me, and it's a fight. It's just proving that girls actually are enough. In fact, a very interesting story what happened was, so there were
Mm-hmm.
three people who started: Bhavisha, me, and Manav, and
Right.
all three of us were colleagues in at Zomato. But
Right.
what happened, like 3 months into we started, Manav and I, we both wanted to pursue MBA, but for me the choice was simple because I was really enjoying this. But for Manav,
Okay.
probably it wasn't that simple. He went ahead and joined his MBA course, quitting Blue Beans. He went ahead, joined IM Kozhikode, and that raised a lot of questions in our families, our first close friends and clients, that now what? Now it's just you and Bhavishya. Do you still want to kind of pursue this? Because a boy, or Manav, is gone. And of course, we too were very hurt that he had chosen to he has chosen to leave. But I think that was, if you ask me, what's the biggest driving force for at least for 1 year, I think I would say this,
Mm-hmm.
because my basics were challenged. That he has left, will you be able to sustain yourself? And I mean, having said that, that kind of was the trigger in both of us to put our heart and soul, make day and night one, and we worked hard. But the interesting twist to it was that one of the days, I think Manav was in second year MBA college, and I'm getting a call from Italy. And I answered this call, and I'm, of course, being an optimistic, I thought it's some potential client that calling me. I've now become
Right,
so popular,
right.
international leads are coming to us. So
Okay.
I answered that call, and I said hello, and it's Manav on the call, and I'm really surprised. And he says, I just received a PPO from BCG, but Nikita, doesn't feel right. Do you still have space for me to come back to Blue Beans? I do not want to go to a large setup. I still want to do something that I feel for. So yes, I think that was that. Manav came back, and the organization was large enough to kind of absorb him back and give him the kind of role that someone with that experience could kind of manage. So yes, that was the interesting part of the background that I come from.
Okay, so I guess talking to you is gonna be very much different, honestly, because right now I'm getting a vibe where we can probably I can talk to you about a lot about society right now, and I would love to do that, and I'm gonna do that. So, okay, so going back a bit in your journey, so I would say you had I
So
wouldn't
you're
say a
getting
lot.
Sarthak why Balls of Steel name just pinched me so
I know,
much.
I know, I can completely understand, and I'll get to that part also. So, I would say that I wouldn't say that your childhood was very, very challenging, but yes, as a child, what you faced was something very different, and the way any child is brought up is makes empath. They Every child is empathetic for the parents, and I can completely understand what you would have gone through listening to those stuff, and have coming from that kind of background. So if I still talk about the different kind of backgrounds that exist in the current society, where people are still questioning such things, and they are not letting the girl child grow, and that is one part, not letting the girl child grow. And the second part is again where the question is being said, put like, can why be an entrepreneur जब नौकरी मिल रही है सब कुछ हो रहा है रिस्क क्यों उठाना है. I'm just right now trying to talk a bit in specificity with the girls, and then we can generalize it. So what would you like to say about that? I mean, how is it affecting, and what's your insight over this if I talk about in a very general perspective of the Indian culture?
Satya, I think the answer is pretty simple here. You know, if you go to a bank
Mm-hmm.
and you apply for a loan, and when you mark yourself girl and unmarried, it's unlikely that
Mm-hmm.
you'll get the loan. But at the same age, if a boy goes and asks for a loan in the bank and he marks himself unmarried, he's more likely to get the loan. I had to start a business, a girl had to start a business. I am unmarried, I am trustworthy. This is probably what the bank wanted to kind of communicate at that point in time. Yes, the
Mm-hmm.
society does make it difficult. There are a lot of programs, but I would say things are definitely improving. I've started meeting a lot more women entrepreneurs than I used to back in the day. So
Mm-hmm.
things are changing definitely. As parents go, I think, see, parents would do something which is safe for their child. It's not that they want bad or
Right.
good for the child. They would rather want something that's the safest journey for their child. They have
Hmm.
not seen many girl venturing out on their own and making it successful and still having a great personal life, once they
Mm-hmm.
start seeing examples around them, it'll be easier for them to kind of push and I would not use the word allow, but kind of nurture their children into growing into entrepreneurs. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just about setting and having seeing examples around them. The moment they start seeing more and more of it, things will become easier. Things are definitely changing. I think earlier my I think now my parents, they are so proud, like they're so proud. So the way they talk about it in the society, I'm sure that would at least impact one other parent to have that as an option in their mind, that girls can grow into becoming entrepreneurs. So it's just a matter of time and it's a work in progress.
No, I can understand. Well, on the very same note, there's another question that's gonna keep ticking me if I don't ask you that. It's on the very same lines. So you told us that clients, people, friends, family, a lot of people questioned you when Manav left the company. That you be able to run this? And believe me, I was in a state of shock right now, even though I'm not in front of you. But I was in a state of shock listening to this. That people have actually said that to you when you were there running a company. You three people are the face of the company, and yet you were questioned. So what I want to know is how you and Bhavisha tackled that situation, how you guys motivated yourself to deal with any and every sort of acquisition that might arise, and any of sort of this hurdle. What was the motivation that you used to give to each other? What was it that you guys told each other and helped each other out? What was the mindset at that point of time?
So see, them asking us questions about Manav leaving and will be able to learn came from a very good intention, from a very good
Hmm.
place. Like they were worried about us.
Okay.
But at the same time, of course, it's something that my whole life belief system were questioned. So I think that
Hmm.
was a I think if Manav hadn't loved that, probably I wouldn't have reached here. So I think the biggest motivation was that. And Manav has been the most supportive in those 2 years as well, and
Hmm.
he was as supportive as one can be. But of course, them leaving was my biggest motivation. Them questioning my belief system was my biggest motivation. My support system from my family, when I told them that I am still going to pursue it, I am still going to have the same annual targets or higher, was something that kept me going and kept Bhavishya going. I think we were a great support system to each other more than anyone else. How they
Wow.
say, choose your choose your co-founder rightly. It's a marriage that you're entering into. I think in my case, I would say that I chose my partner very well. I She has been my biggest support system, online and offline as well.
Wow. I guess then I would say that you, Bhavesh, and Manav, probably you three have been very, very lucky to find each other at Zomato, and Zomato needs a lot of credits for that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think Zomato does produce a lot of great entrepreneurs because their culture is like that. I would have not done this with probably anyone else if it wasn't them. I mean, imagine a partnership of 5 years. We have empathy for each other, where so many co-founders fall out. It's not that we don't fight or we don't have arguments. We do not disagree to a lot of decisions. We do. But
Mhm.
the thing is that we complement each other so much, and we really treat each other with a lot of respect and empathy, like I would say.
That's lovely. In that case, I don't think so that I would be asking you question about the partnership, but I might. I'm not closing my
Go
doors on that side.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to your starting point, so you told us that you
Sorry,
had.
bringing it back to the same topic, these empathy and this lovely relationship do not come without accountability. There has to be a
Right.
right balance of accountability and trust to make things work. One of them,
Hmm.
one of them becoming heavier than the other. If you have too much trust without accountability, or if you're only accountable without trusting the other person, things will become skewed and the relationship will break off. So it's so important to have put systems in place that can make things work beautifully. It's not god gifted. You have to work towards it. It's easier to give up on things than to work on it, fix it, and make it happen.
Right, 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 right. Completely understand because matlab, I personally believe that such thing is required in both professional and personal relationship, be it of any sort. Quitting is the very easiest option out there, but making it work is the most difficult
Yes,
option. So yeah,
completely
I can
agree.
completely agree to that. Okay, so going back in time when you both guys started, you told us that you quit Zomato with 5,000 in your account, which in the Indian rupees manner is like absolutely
Nothing.
almost zero,
Yeah.
right? When you talk about business, okay, that is probably just the amount you would be using to starting your website and doing the hosting part, right? So give me some more insights that how you and Bhavesh and Manav started this thing in terms of money, and what was the process like, where how did you land up the first client, and what all you did to get the things rolling out. What was that procedure? What was that time like? Tell me more about it.
So I think you're absolutely right. Like, but I would say, an interesting fact, Sarthak, here that 5,000 rupees I did not burn for another 2 months after starting also. So the thing is that, when you have a very supportive network, our network really helps.
uh,
I remember my website was free, my designing was free, the so a friend who there were two, like she lived in an entire 3 bhk, so she said maybe you can just use my drawing room as an office. I also get bored, so you guys could use some energy. I'll have some good energy in my house. So it was an interesting amalgamation of all the things where people came forward to help us, because they kind of place their trust and excitement in us. They when it's like, it was like a community project, I would say. In the beginning, everyone was supporting
mm,
us. Our clients also were supporting us so much, helping us brainstorm, referring us. That site was free, the place was free. I remember my uncle just giving me a car back then, like, use my car for as long as you want. So the whole community came forward to kind of help us.
wow. I mean, that is really, really wow.
I
You got
also,
almost.
I have a tendency to make things come across simpler and more positive than they actually are. I think I've had my share of sleepless nights, sleeping with almost teary eyes and all of those things. But my highlights of my life in retrospect are like this, I would say.
But this is quite amazing. I mean, all the things you got there, and the network has helped you a lot. So
Absolutely.
why don't you tell me more about this network? Because sometimes the question arises with entrepreneurs is that when they want to start out is that I don't have a network, and because of this network part, a lot of time people say that I want to do a business, but let me go to an MBA school first and meet those kind of people there, because then they will divert out into different fields, and I will have their contacts, and I will have a network on which I can build upon. So what eventually is happening is that they're putting in a cost, let's say 20 lakhs, or even be it 10 lakhs you're putting in for MBA, which you can easily put as an investment into your business, use that to make your business stand as an asset, and during that time build that network. So tell me more about your network, that how did you build that network, where did you start it, and how did it start. Well, obviously we've seen how it helped you, but how did it actually start nurturing you and everything. So tell me more about this thing, and what is your insight about this question that I raised. People thinking of going to college is the most valuable thing, or maybe the network is the issue, having no network is the issue. So what is your insight over that?
So I think that MBA is nothing but a safety net, and it is okay to have a safety net in your mind, especially when, see, starting out when you're 23, 24 versus starting out when you're in your early 30s. You have different responsibilities on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was not responsible for anyone in my household except for myself. And that too, I knew that
Right.
everything goes down south, there is my family who can help me out. I was of the age that
Mm.
if something goes wrong also, I can still go do whatever I initially planned to do. So I will not say that just investing 20 lakhs in an MBA is futile. No, it's not. You do build a different kind of network. Maybe a lot of people find their co-founders during their MBAs, and you're through the network. So it's a very personal choice. If you want to have a safety net, you go ahead, do it. But I think networking these days has become very superficial. Just exchanging cards and hoping that this guy will come to my use later. I have never seen merit in that kind of networking. But maybe low. Maybe if there are X people in my network, I would rather focus on X by three, give, be there to help them, and place my complete trust in them, so that in return, I mean, actually in return you can't be expecting anything out of them. That's the true, I mean, that's what I make of networking. That's the
Mm,
truly the way that people would be there to kind of help you as well.
right, right. But with that said, Nikita, it's also very evident, and time and said again that you can go to any B school, any MBA school, but if you really want to do business, you can only learn business by doing business. And matlab, I will think so that you will agree with me on this, that you have learned all your business skills while doing business. Then how would you link these two things, that investment is important for business also, and then there are people who are very much ardent that no, I will do business, but I will go to MBA school also. Then how would you relate to that and add to that?
Sarthak, I think we should ask Manav about this question. For me, I've not done an MBA. I don't know what I'm missing out on. For me,
Oh.
I can't answer this question. But my sister is pursuing MBA from IIM Indore right now. But it's so much more interesting to kind of, I do read some of her books, and there are a lot of things about organization behavior and everything that I do read, and it does add some value to what I pursue. So having some
Hmm.
context before, see. Now if I do an MBA, I would so much be able to kind of relate to it, and my understanding would be much deeper. So
Hmm.
won't say I'm not the right person to answer that question. I think people who have done an MBA and then entering into entrepreneurship is would be the right set of people to answer that. But not necessary MBA is a waste. No, I will not agree to that. It depends on you what you would have to take out of it. What was your objective doing an MBA? To know more people, to get inspired, to learn, have professors as network. They're always there to help you. It's a very different ball game altogether.
Right. Okay, so moving on to this journey of entrepreneurship and everything that you're doing, Nikita, if I ask you about, let's say, what is your biggest fear in this journey now, and how do you deal with that fear? What would you say?
Interesting. I think one very constant fear that I have is that maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not relevant enough. That's the fear that I keep having. All the time. You've heard about imposter syndrome, right? When you whatever
Mm,
you feel that you are not worth it. It was something else. It was the luck that played. It were other people who helped you. It was just by chance that happened for you. And
mm-hmm.
it's so difficult to kind of get over that and push yourself to learn more, to be more relevant. In my room I always have these posters, not like they're like A4 sheets written with the next target that I have to achieve in a month for my personal growth. Be it, when as you move up the ladder, it becomes so difficult to keep in touch with the ground realities, and you feel that you're losing touch. So for me to that I'll become irrelevant, or I'm not good enough to be in that position, is the constant fear that I keep facing.
Okay. Okay. But don't you think that this fear is the one that drives an entrepreneur to become better and better day by day? And that is where we also say, that all don't think that you're the best out there. Think you're the second best, so that you're always working harder to be the best.
I think very nicely put. Yes, yes. You need to be constantly driven to improve yourself. It becomes so difficult, especially in our journey, when you have no time left to give to yourself. All you only depend on your network to kind of learn from, grow from. It's so important to take out time to invest in yourself as well. I think lockdown has given that opportunity to a lot of us.
Right. I can completely understand. Okay, so Nikita, we know that how you started, and how your network started helping you out, and how all the things happened. So now tell me, like, what was, well, firstly, how did you land your first client? Okay, and when you landed him and when the first payment came in, so what did that instill in you, and what was that feeling like, and what was the mindset at that point of time?
So it's a very funny story. Our first client was Tossin Pizzas. If you're based out of Gurgaon, you would have heard about it. Our
Right, right, right.
they were a first client, and then so they said, yes, we want to kind of use your services, so how much will you charge? I froze
Hmm.
on that question. I froze on that question because it was they were paying for me, Bhavisha and Manav services, and I was on the call, and they were sitting right next to me, and we had somehow. I didn't know that the conversation would even lead to that point. And we were like just looking at each other, and we said X amount. And he said, okay,
Right.
done. And I was just shocked to know that everything's happened and the first client's here, and now we have to start the work. But now, so many years later, when we just talk about it and joke about it, he said, Nikita, you quoted so less. You could have, even if you quoted 3x of that, I would have said yes. And I just feel that, yeah, man, like, we are always so underconfident when quoting price initially, that's a fear we need to get rid of. So, yes, that's one thing that early stage entrepreneurs should know. Like, don't be scared to quote the right price that you think it's your worth.
So how what would you say that how do you find the right price? Because I guess this question is gonna stay with a lot of people, and somewhere I wouldn't deny the fact it is there with me also. So probably when you answer this, it's gonna help me somewhere. That how do you actually find the right price, and what is the right price?
So,
How do you
service,
evaluate it?
yeah.
What's there that you think about it? Yeah.
So in service industry, it's very difficult to kind of figure out that one right price that you want to kind of start quoting in the market. So what we
Hmm.
did was we had a rule that we would whatever we quote in a whole larger set of clients, 50% people should say no and 50% people should say yes to it. And that's when we land on the right pricing, because if more people are saying yes, that's also a sign that you're not quoting well enough. And a lot of people start
Hmm.
saying no, that means that the whole ecosystem is not accepting that price. So there has to be a balance of the yeses and the nos to your price to arrive to that right amount that you can, of course, after covering your costs and working on your per hour charges and everything, then what's that markup that you need to add is totally depends on how the ecosystem is responding to your pricing.
I guess that's a very nice way that people can price out this. So anyone who's listening and you're going through problems, I would say do go through this process once. Definitely, you're gonna have to lose on a lot of clients, and a lot of potential leads will go down the drain. But I guess that's gonna teach you a lot. I have also done the same process somewhere somehow when I'm listening to Nikita. That yes, I have done this process in some other manners, but yeah, I have been through it, and I guess I'm getting to that point slowly and steadily. Wow, but yeah, I can agree to that, Nikita, that this thing definitely works. If you have a balance of yeses and nos out there, you'll be able to get to
It's
your
always
price
all right
sooner.
to walk away from a deal because of the pricing.
Yes, yes. On this note, I would like to quote a small instance from a book that I read. So I don't know if you've read this book, How to Close a Sale by Brian Tracy. Okay, so what he does is that Brian Tracy started as a telecaller staff or something like that, and he used to call up people, cold calling them, and no, months and years passed by, and the sales that were coming in were very, very, very less, and he wasn't happy with that, and that anger and frustration started building in him. So one day he decided that it's enough, and I won't take this shit. So the next potential client, he made the cold call. He was like, okay, so this is that we do, and this and that. So do you want to take it? He's like, no, I'll think about it. So give me some time. So Brian Tracy was like, I have already given you every information, and we don't do callbacks. So if you want to let us know, tell me right now. We don't do callbacks. And that guy was like, okay, then I'll take it. And Brian Tracy went in shock.
Wow.
See, and Brian Tracy says that was the day I closed 3 deals back to back. And otherwise he would take about 2 to 3 weeks to close 3 deals. So what I wanna try and relate here is that, it is okay to walk away from the deal sometimes, because you might not know that that client might turn back and say, okay, hey, I want that deal back.
And adding
Maybe
to
your
Sarthak, I've
right,
realized that and I've read it as well, that ambivalent people are the best to kind of do sales, or at least go in front of the client, because the hyper one or the more anxious person will just go ahead, okay, okay, let me work out something, or the someone who is a little reserved as a personality would not try harder. So a person who can
right.
play both and can be either in any situation are the best people. Instead, not the most outspoken or the most extrovert people, not the most introvert people, but the ambivalent people are the best to kind of excel in the situations that you just mentioned.
Right, right. So I guess that's a good insight that we have in terms of how we can price and how we can probably close a deal there. So if you anytime try it out, guys, let us know somewhere, may probably on our social handles or anywhere when you follow us or do anything. Do let us know. Moving on, Nikita. So if we talk about let's say the failures, because I wouldn't call them the failure now, because after all the podcasts that I have done, although entrepreneurs say that they are not failure, I personally don't call failures because I'm so done with them. It's like I'm learning everything new sometimes. So I call them hiccups now. So what is the biggest hiccup that you have faced in your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you deal with it, and what did it teach you?
Okay. My God, there are so many. I'm just confused which one to kind of. But I think my biggest challenge in my journey or in our journey so far, and I know that unanimously Bhavishya, Manav, Archit would also, he's another partner of ours, would unanimously agree, is scaling up a service model. I think scaling up a service model,
Okay.
especially in India, is it's pretty it's full of lot of hiccups. Like you would constantly be hicking up if you're trying to do that. So what happened was, after the initial response that we got from the market, we quickly expanded to so we started off from Gurgaon. We quickly expanded to Bangalore, Bombay, and Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We realized that managing service setup and growing so fast in a service setup was not the best move, I would say. Maybe a little more baby steps, and then slowly would have been a little more gradually would have been a better approach to kind of go about it. My biggest hiccup was the fact scaling up a service model across geographies, and that too so initially without having an external funding based on the profits. Reinvesting the profits that we were making was one of the bigger challenge that we kind of faced. And how
Hmm.
we moved ahead of that was almost like reinventing ourselves. That having a lot of measures in place. We place a very strict high NPS policy, or we don't take more clients. In India, the problem is saying no is never a thing. In India, businesses would say yes to everything. You can do this, yes.
Mm.
Do that, yes. So we started that saying no has become more important than saying yes. Profiling our potential clients that we want to move towards had become extremely crucial. Managing a great NPS had become extremely important. Moving a little slowly, cautiously, had become more important than ever. So these were the measures that we put in a place. We reinvented our whole P&L, and then once we were much healthier, then we kind of restarted our whole journey. Or we had paused, and restarting the journey was the way that we looked at it.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. So one thing that I want to pick up from this journey itself is, on the scaling up part, that you guys, like, very soon after you started in Gurgaon, you expanded to Bombay, if I'm not wrong to say, Bombay, Bangalore, and right now you're international as well, working from Dubai, if I'm not wrong to say that,
Yeah.
right? So, what was this experience like? You guys decided to scale. So where did you? Matlab, you told us that you reinvested the profits back in the company, but how was it like? Traveling back and forth. How was this complete experience like? Setting up different camps and finding offices, and or was it like you were just trying to showcase that we are there, but management was happening from one place. So what was all this thing? How did this thing work around?
Mm, uh, Personally, it really took a toll on me. I remember getting up one of the mornings and not, and completely zoning out and not realizing where I was getting up, which part of the world I was in, and where was I. And then it took me like 10 seconds to come back to the world. In that moment, I realized that probably I'm running faster than I am capable of. So that was my personal realizing moment that this all needs to be a little healthier overall for the business and for me. Um,
Hmm.
that was a moment where we decided that we need to think of things a little differently. This whole fast growth and scaling up and massive light speed growth is probably easier said than done, and we need to look at a little more sustainable and holistic way of growing.
Right, right, right. So, matlab, what was the procedure like? You matlab, expanded in all of the places at one time, or was it one by one? And
In a matter of 6 to 8 months. Actually, launching Dubai and Abu Dhabi was a little expensive and tedious. Uh,
right.
so traveling between Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and Dubai, especially when we have made such high investment, was quite difficult. And this all happened very rapidly because there were opportunities everywhere, and we wanted to grab all the opportunities possible. So I think that was not the right move.
Okay, okay, okay. I get it. So, looking back in time, like, right now you're definitely telling us like that wasn't the right move. But talking to you makes me feel like you and your teammates are more of a opportunity grabbing people. So you guys grabbed the opportunity and you guys did move fast, very fast, and then you realized that you guys need to slow down. But whatever you did, you are right now at the point where you have touched your 1 million US dollar revenue mark. So, uh, if I look at that and try to relate it, that being that opportunistic person, was that a good thing or a bad thing? How would you call it?
I think neither. It was a phase. It was an experiment, and you keep evolving and experimenting. So it was just part of my journey, which gave me a lot more clarity in for long term.
Okay, so how do you see yourself and your company going? More opportunistic or slow, steady, and sustainable growth?
I would not say slow. Actually, these are not complementary things, or they're not. They cannot coexist. Right now, we
Hmm.
are very strategic about the opportunities which we want to kind of pursue. We will not go after anything and everything that's coming our way. We
Hmm.
have very strong screening system and what opportunities we want to go for. Earlier, what was happening was there was X amount of revenue that was being added, and X by 5 revenue was also flowing through. So that
Hmm.
it wasn't really helping us, and we were in a soup like, now what? We are working so hard, and what do we do? So then we reworked on a whole strategy that maybe not have the same amount of monthly growth, but it has to be sustainable. There has to be no pass through revenue that needs to just flow out of a P&L. So we just started looking at numbers more closely. We started looking at the margins more closely. You know, when you just started up, though you're so passionate
Right.
that you don't look at your numbers so much. But now the kind of
Hmm.
we have, we just like it's a more systematic and a more uh, holistic way of looking at our numbers and our growth.
Okay, okay. So, right now we did talk about couple of stories from your business journey, but you know, a lot of businesses, I would say not a lot, probably every business and every founder and co-founder have a story where, there something happened in their entrepreneurial life that changed them completely top to bottom and their perspective towards the business. So, tell me if there's some story like this which happened with you and what did it change?
There was one change, I'll tell you. So I joined a Stanford Seed program. See, the thing was for me, I just came out of college, undergrad college, did a short stint at a job, and ventured into it. There were not many
Hmm.
guiding souls for me. There were not many mentors for me out there in the industry. So it was difficult for me to kind of put myself in the whole perspective. Where am I going? Is this good enough? Is this fast enough? The whole I was in my own loop, and I was going on in my own loop. And then what happened was, I'll tell you. I joined this program called it's an entrepreneurship program offered by Stanford in India and Africa in the growing economies called Stanford Seed Program, and it's only
Okay.
for entrepreneurs, their businesses generating more than X amount of revenue and up till an X amount of
Hmm.
revenue. It's just when I went there and I spent time with them, I found my breed over there, and I realized that there you can have bigger and larger appetite, and you can still achieve it in a more sustainable manner. So for me, meeting my people who have done this and guiding me was extremely thought provoking for me. I found the mentors, I found these guides in my life who would really help me, who have been there and done it and were extremely helpful. So for me, truly, I think I'm not paid to advertise it, but it was one of the best decisions, one of the best courses, one of the best experiences I have had as an entrepreneur. I found the people that I can always go back to who push me. I found the tribe that I never had.
Wow. So that's nice. So,
You asked me about
listening.
community, right? This was one of the most supportive, the strongest community that I have of fellow women entrepreneurs, of other people from different industries, different perspectives coming in. It was just brilliant.
That's lovely. So if I look at it from all the perspectives, I would say that we generally say that if you want to become a musician, go and sit with musicians. If you want to become a, let's say, dietitian, to go and talk with dietitians. If you want to make good body, go and sit and talk with a lot of gymnasts and gym people out there. And similarly, when you want to be a good entrepreneur, change your community and be sit and talk with entrepreneurs. You'll be one, and that is what happened with you a bit later in the stage, but that has changed you a lot.
Absolutely. That happened with me a bit later in the stage because their qualification criteria with respect to revenue I could achieve a little later. So
Okay,
that, and actually one more thing here, you don't necessarily have to sit with the people from the same industry. It is so important
right.
to get exposure to different kind of industries, think of different possibilities, how they looked at a problem. That was one of the most crucial step in opening up my mind. And a very small example, we were all on call recently about how
Hmm.
COVID and how we have all kind of uh, we were I mean how we all handled the whole COVID situation. I and there's this inheritance optimism in an entrepreneur, and when 10 of them come
Right.
together, everything seems possible. And truly, I've never it was just such a positive call and such a reinforcing call that the couple of doubts I had, it just got solved automatically. So it's so important to be in a network of these positive, supportive fellow entrepreneurs or otherwise, that it really can kind of define a lot of things for you.
I can understand. Yes, this happens. This definitely happens, and I wanna like just add to this that listeners whoso is listening to this, I would say that Nikita has pointed out a very good thing that you need to have people from all the industry, not necessarily from your industry, because that is gonna widen your horizons. Like I don't know what, and you're gonna have much more perspective to think on. And somewhere what we say is like learning can come from anywhere. You might not even be looking at those perspectives, and you might get answer to your questions from their industry. So yeah, I'll just say that Nikita's pointed out a really great thing, and you can just pick it up. I hope Nikita, I've said the right thing. And
Absolutely. Hang on, Sartha. That's true.
thank you. So, Nikita, when we talk about business, every business now and then is going through some sort of struggle. Okay. Apart from the COVID struggle right now, if I talk about your business, like what is the biggest struggle for you right now? It could be anything. Okay. Maybe HR, money, investments, or any sort. So, what is the biggest struggle for you right now, and how are you dealing with it?
Okay. So I think the biggest struggle that I feel for my team is keeping the motivation up. That keeping their mental well-being at its right place. There are certain part of people who are more susceptible uh, to uh, to not being that emotionally well. See, there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that come in picture. sunlight, going out, meeting people from other genders, seeing other humans, that kind of evoke a lot of emotions and chemical reactions within a body. Not having those
Right.
also can take like a little toll on your happiness level. So I
Right.
feel ensuring that my team is happy and at the same motivation level has been one of the biggest challenge. There could be possibility of miscommunication. We all come from different backgrounds. You are at your home constantly, can arise for a lot of miscommunication and uh, people not being at the most optimum of their happiness level. So I think that has been one of the bigger challenge, besides ensuring that we could provide job, salaries and time for all my team. So ensuring that we haven't laid off even a single person. So fortunately our intent was to protect our people and their interest as P1, and then to move outside. So these were a couple of biggest challenges that we were facing, or we are still facing, to be honest. And because given
Hmm.
that a lot of chunk of our clients were from the F&B industry that we started, which have been the most hit right now. So in the
Right.
first month itself, in the second month rather, we lost a chunk of a revenue. So
Okay.
with that in picture, maintaining jobs, maintaining their well-being when you are so there's so much turmoil going on in you has been one of the bigger challenge.
Right. 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 So, I don't know. I mean, probably there just might not be any link to this, but the only link I can say that this is an entrepreneurial problem that, there's a lots and lots of hurricanes and those tornadoes going inside you because of a problem, but you really can't show it. So I'm gonna pick up an note from one of my podcast only. So this was the podcast with Mr. Sanjay Kaul, and there was this thing where he handled a very huge ass problem out there, and he was like, I didn't he didn't showcase it to anyone, but and he was talking to the lawyer to get the things done, and that to a civil lawyer when the problem was in this advertising and media sector only. And he knew, he was like, I knew what was happening inside me, but I had to get this thing done because there was so much at stake. And similarly, talking to you, I can completely understand, and during these times specifically, that there's lots and lots to take care of, and specifically when it also comes down to mental health as well. And you cannot showcase to the your team members out there, and but still you gotta manage it. So yeah, I mean, that's a kudos to all the entrepreneurs out there who are trying to do that management
But to be honest, our
mental
teams,
team.
see, here is where the culture plays that role, right? If you have managed a good
Hmm.
culture in your company, your team also becomes extremely understanding. They know that
Right.
it's very obvious that as a business owner, you would be going through a lot of financial difficulties as well. You need to put in a lot in this project right now. So I would say if you've had like maintained a good culture in the company, it is not easy, but it's definitely it's people understand you a little more, and that's what you need, right, to be understood. That if I'm able to spend less time with my team because there must be something bigger or more impactful going on the outside.
Right. 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 Okay. So now if I ask you, Nikita, like, are you a money-minded person? So what would you say?
Of course I am. How else will I be able to optimize on certain KPIs, certain numbers, if I don't think of money? That's one of the founding money caring. Yes, of course. I don't know what money minded means, but money caring definitely I am, and there is no other way.
Right. Right. Completely agreed. So with that said, distance, I wanna bring this out that Nikita has actually said this in a very very precise note that she is money caring and that yes, she's money minded, but I still want to make this very clear that don't take this in the negative direction, because this nowhere means that she is a money minded person where she's running behind the money. I don't think so that she's doing that. Not at all. What she's doing, she's trying to run a business for which we need money, and from that money, a lot of things can happen. So money is just a resource, and yes, then there after that resource is there, there would be byproducts, and the wealth creation is there. After that, the richness would come. That probably something we as entrepreneur would be taking for ourselves. So Nikita, am I wrong at saying
No, no.
anything here?
No. It's especially in a non-invested format. There, how would you say that there are two kind of businessmen. First is who take money before all the expenses, and the second kinds are the money are who take out money after all the expenses. So it
Right.
boils down to that.
Right. Perfect. So Nikita, even while running the businesses that we have faced different kinds of problems, and money has definitely been a problem for a lot of businesses. If I talk about your business, what kind of money problems have you faced majorly? No money problems or more money problems?
Um, there have been money problems, of course. Especially, I remember when we had invested everything in launching Dubai. That was one
Hmm.
of the most difficult phases for us, where we realized, oh my God, we have invested everything from personal savings to the company profits, everything that came to our way. So, but I think a good financial planning kind of really helps you. We hired good planners. There were good support from our CA who did very exhaustive financial planning for us, taking loans, taking credit lines, or at the right time, slowing down when we have to. So, being a little more holistic kind of really helped us move forward. But cash flow crunch is evident, it's always going to be there. The whole path, so how they say it's actually never about your revenues, your margins, it's all about the cash flows. So,
Right.
I think managing cash flows has been one of the most difficult things, especially in an not so organized sector. And when you're dealing with SMBs, managing uniform cash flows has been extremely difficult. But there are procedures, we are constantly evolving in that also. I won't say we have solved it, we are far from solving it, but yes, it's a work in progress again.
So, give me something in this work in progress and tell me exactly what did you learn about cash flow management? Because I've like talking to you on this very note, I'm feeling like this Dubai story has been a big learning lesson for you and the team. So, what was that you actually learned in terms of cash flow management, and how are you using it now? Give me some more detailed insight.
Learnings from Dubai weren't around cash flow management. They were more around better financial planning. I think
Mm-hmm.
you need to take external validation. What happens as entrepreneurs is that you're so close to the puzzle that you forget the whole picture, and you are way too optimistic than you should be. So having an external
Hmm.
opinion or a board or a financial planner is it becomes mandatory. They will caution you, they will pull you out of certain things that they can see but we can't, because of being so close to the problem. So that was my biggest takeaway before making any large investment or taking a very crucial step. Always take external advice. That could be from anyone you trust. And secondly, there were more tactical things that we added to our day-to-day functioning to help us with cash flows. For example, I can share a couple of examples. Firstly would be having a tighter contract. In India,
Right.
people take contracts very lightly. So we realized that our team was also not placing contracts very properly. We realized the problem was the paper and the physical thing of it. So we tried to move everything to e-contract so that it's easier and it's easily done. They should not feel any hurdle in doing it. That came in place. And then secondly was we moved to advance payments and post dated checks with our clients. That kind of really helped us ensure at least short term cash flow problem. So yeah, these were a couple of things that we kind of put in picture to make things happen more smoothly with respect to cash flows.
Nice. That's nice insight on how we can better our cash flow in various terms and in different models. No matter like what you used was for the Dubai model, but yes, listeners, we can use this in many different models, PDCs, and uh, adding to the point, contracts are yes very loose in India, and they needs to be tightened up a lot. And personally, I would say. This has been a reason for a lot of this probably is the reason that a lot of partnerships and a lot of businesses gets lost because their contracts are not tight,
Absolutely.
and then it comes down to ego and stuff, and all this shit happens out there that things go down the drain. So on this very note, if I ask
And
you
jumping to it, Sarthak, a lot of times,
right,
not in my business, but in other businesses also, that clients say that your work wasn't good enough, wasn't up to the mark. I won't pay you.
right, Right.
You don't pay an organization, you pay an organization for the work. Good and bad can be a very subjective thing. If you it was a good work, would you be willing to pay them more? So there are
Right.
cases, and it's a partnership. Sometimes you get delivered more than expected, and sometimes you get delivered slightly less than what you expected. So if it's so this whole thing that being at the mercy of the client in Indian whole SMB context is very difficult, and it's very unpredictable. So hence having certain things very clearly laid out in the contract becomes all the more important.
Right. So, like, since you have dealt with this and you're giving us good insight. So, what else could you tell us? Like, you know the loopholes out there in this, in these terms in the Indian businesses. So, how betterly can we deal with it, and what else could be a major loophole there?
See, fortunately or unfortunately, in most, when you're dealing with the owners themselves, the relationship will play the key role.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we added a very interesting dashboard in our day-to-day working, which defined the happiness level of a client, and client did not have to measure it. We ourselves had to measure it. Client did not respond twice, there are certain blinker that goes up, level 1 of alert goes in. Client not responding at this level, which they generally do xyz things. So based on certain parameters, there are different level of alerts that get raised, which are a very good indication of how well your client is responding and how happy he is with the services right now. Because ultimately, in when you're dealing with the business owner SMB, it's at everything is at the owner's mercy, right? Or who the person
Right.
POC's mercy. So
Right.
we have these internal dashboards in place which reflect how happy the client is based on certain parameters that we feel are a good reflection of their happiness and satisfaction level with us as an agency.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
before the client actually raises an alarm, we already know that this client's not doing well, and we already need to start doing better for them, or at least there has to be some action that's to be taken.
I think that's a really nice way, the way we can deal with the clients in the service sector. And guys, who's like, when you're listening to this, and if you're into the service sector, probably even if you're an employee working somewhere, this is something which you can definitely suggest to your managers or your bosses out there, that this way your services can become better. Because from a personal experience, handling clients in the service sector, where services are very subjective, these issues are pretty much evident and everlasting, I would say, not coming down anytime soon in the Indian culture, as as far as I can see, in my personal opinion. Yeah. So these sort of measures are pretty much very, very important that you have internally, so that your services become better over the period of time.
Actually, when the
I
client
would.
raises an alarm and he voices out, I think the damage is done way more than it can be kind of contained that well. So we don't want to why to wait for the moment when the client has to raise an alarm. Be You have to be more vigilant about it.
Right, 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 right. So I guess, on this very part, I would like to add one thing. Probably this is very from a very personal experience, and so it's like what personally happens with me. I am on a spree that, let's say if I'm working with a client or even a prospective client, I want that my company be the first, contacting the client. Okay, so this work has been done. This is what we're doing. This is where your progress is, and this way we are able to keep the client in loop. And personally, I feel the moment client starts questioning us, ki, where is the work, and that is where I personally feel that something has started going in the wrong direction. So I guess maybe this is a what I would say is that, guys, if you have this thing in you where you have a gut feeling, I would say, and maybe there's something that defines you as a person also, that you have to do this to retain the client or be provide a better service. I guess do that, because this is what I do. And on a higher level, Nikita has done one thing in her organization which is helping her. So I guess, Nikita, would you? I wanna.
When you have scaled up, like we have more than 200 clients. I don't know all of them, and I don't
Right.
get a dipstick of how they're feeling right now. So there has to be a more
Hmm.
automatic kind of a procedure to give you a reflection of how satisfied they are with the services. So it's a very interesting design thinking challenge that every company, or at least growing service based industry company, that they should take up. That how, what parameters should they use to I mean, how to set certain benchmarks that if not achieved, then things are not doing well within the organization.
Right, right, right. So, guys, I guess this was a very, very good insight onto, how to deal with clients specifically in the service sector and how to keep your services intact, probably let's say 10 on 10 to be there in the business.
It will never be
Okay,
a
so
permanent,
move.
but that's okay. I think that's what you can try to pursue.
Right, right, right. So moving on, Nikita, if I ask you that, what is your business mantra that you would like to give to the listener? So what would that be?
Um, See, I don't think I'm in a position where I can actually give any mantra to anyone. But one thing that I live by is empathy. I think our whole startup ecosystem lacks empathy so much. We are so ruthless. Companies do everything based on P&Ls, and I would still like a more European way of functioning companies, which are more long lasting, which are more sustainable, which are very inclusive in the nature. So I think that's one thing that I live by, that it has to be an ecosystem nurturing. Your company has to internally and externally practice empathy, be more inclusive. That's one thing that I live by.
That's lovely because empathy is very, very important. And honestly, guys, I've heard something from an MLA also. If I'm not wrong, this was Mahesh Sharma. He said, "Whatever you do, be empathetic." Because that's where you start realizing what is the other person is going through,
And
and that
especially
is where
with clients, man, this is so important. Like, this is not, it's not a zero sum game. It's not that
right,
if this person X is achieving X, I cannot achieve the same. It is not a zero
right,
sum game. Everything can coexist. So
right.
why that fear? Why to live in that fear? It has to be a little more, I don't know the right word for it, but yes, you need to. It's not a zero sum game. Everybody can win.
Okay, okay, that's nice. So, as we're reaching towards the end of the podcast, Nikita, there's one thing that we do that we ask our guests to recommend us another entrepreneur whom we think has a very inspiring journey out there, whom we can call on the podcast and talk about that. So, whom would you recommend?
I think so. There are so I like I said, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, but one interesting person to gain a lot of insights from would be Abbas Gabijawala. He runs this company. He's a toy maker. If you as
Okay,
in childhood, if you've played with these mechanics toys,
right.
he's making it more interesting, and
Okay,
he has so many good insights about lockdown, learning of children pre-lockdown, post-lockdown, and I think that would be a great way of looking at whole entrepreneurship in a different manner. Plus, I learn a lot of empathy from him as well. So I think he'll be a great person to come on the show.
that's great. In that case, we'll make sure that Abbas is there on the show, and once he's done, we have had his interview. We'll make sure that you both have each other's links so that you can learn, and we can also learn. So that said, listeners, this was Nikita Burman with us, and honestly, if I look at the story that she taught us right now, there's a lots and lots of taking that you can do. First thing first, she's fought with the society, and hands down, Nikita, for that, hands down. This is not an easy task. You have done that, and I have no words apart from saying that I bow to you for this, what you have done. So I wouldn't say that, if with the balls of steel, you with the vagina of steel. Hands down.
Started your pleasure, Brian. Thank you so much.
with that, another thing that guys, Nikita, while talking to Nikita, we've got a lot of insights on how to deal with clients and how network can help us. So yes, I hope so this helps you out. And before I end, definitely, Nikita, I want to thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and coming on the show and giving us insight into your journey. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Pleasure was all mine, Sarthak. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed so much.
Same here, same here. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
I hope that you're able to take back something insightful from this podcast and apply it in your life to be a better version of yourself and add to your Dhandho Soch. If you know someone whom you think should feature on my podcast and has a very inspiring entrepreneurial journey, then do drop me a DM on my Instagram, SarthakVarshney. Sarthak Varshney. Yeah, that's me. I'm the founder of SV Clicks and SV Clicks is the producer of this show. You can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn as well with the same name. If you're willing to listen to more of such unheard, inspiring stories of the entrepreneurs, then don't forget to follow us by pressing that follow button on your podcast screen. Thank you for being such an amazing audience. Keep learning, keep growing. We'll be back soon. See ya.